Okay. Did anyone have any thoughts on the agenda I had sent out earlier? Okay. I think it's some things that we have going on that are in progress. So just looking for updates, I think. The Lansingburg cupola, I think we were talking about RFPs and we thought they might be going out mid-April. Any update on that?
Yes, I talked to TAP. They're going to help me prepare some bid documents, so we should be able to bid this pretty soon. It's not a big project, but should go pretty fast.
You think middle of next month, or you think it'll be before summer starts?
Could be next week. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty fast. It's going to be
Okay.
going to go right along.
Okay. And the flood repair at Lansingburg, I think we said that bids had come in low. I think you $3,800, and that we're able to address the flooring and wainscot at Lansingburg with that money, with Upstate Construction. Are there any updates on that?
Yeah, it's done.
Wow.
Floor looks great. I've asked, they were able to put the wainscoting back the way it was. That whole wall needs to be repainted. But the wainscoting is back in place, and so at some point we'll need to repaint.
Now, as I recall, the $3,800, was that our full insurance payout, or is there anything left over from that insurance payout?
It's supposed to be something left over, but I haven't contacted the insurance company because the payout was over $4,000.
Right. So maybe could we use those funds to do the painting, or you think that won't be enough?
What's that?
Do you think that we might be able to use those additional funds for painting that wall, or do we think that we have to do that separately?
Yeah, it's possible, sure. Since, it doesn't involve an emergency, when we get around to it, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So you want to try and get a price from Upstate? Do you think you want to do it with somebody else?
No, somebody else, probably the painters.
Okay.
I think I might want to take a look at expanding that too. I think there's a whole major section that needs repainting. So I think, go with another project altogether.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for the update. I appreciate it. At the main branch library, we've got the north and the east wall repairs that Debrino is going to be doing. And I think we had projected that they might be starting mid-April. Any updates on that?
Well, it might be a little earlier. I think they've got all their permits from the city. They actually intend to start staging this project March 31st, which means they'll be bringing in the lift and a bunch of other stuff to park in the backyard.
Great. So they'll come in off the alley and through the gate and into the backyard.
Yeah, that basically starts the project.
Great. Well, that's good news. Well, the weather's been helpful to us then this year.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference. If this weather holds, it's great.
Right. Right. So
will the ramp need to be closed at some time during their work on the?
At some point, yes, it will, because they're doing, the north wall as well, and that's the entire wall. So yes, it will have to be closed at some point.
And for the
minimize that as we go.
for the north wall, I assume they're not going to bring the lift into the areaway, are they? Are they going to work off of fixed scaffolding or work off of a bosun's chair? What are their thoughts?
It's some kind of, I don't know, I can't visualize this. It's some kind of over-the-top scaffolding. It's not from the bottom up, so it does not seem to disrupt a lot down there. But you can't work above on masonry with that access ramp open.
Oh, yes, right.
You know,
You have to put some temporary
unless-
protections in.
Yeah, unless they rig up something where, you know, it's completely netted, but I don't think that's in the cards.
Did they give you any time of any estimate on timeline?
Well, you know, again, their initial timeline is June 1st, so.
I meant for the north wall itself and how long that ramp might have to be closed.
The whole job should be completed by June 1st. Hopefully.
I guess it would be interesting to hear when you anticipate closures of that ramp and how much notice we'll be able to give the public and that sort of thing.
I'm sorry?
When we have to close the ramp, I assume we'll give the public some notice for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A week's notice?
Crispin, did you want to identify the participants?
Thank you for mentioning that, Marie. Yes, we do want to do that. So I guess I've got everyone arranged it from top to bottom. I'm Kirsten Lorscher, committee chair. And Marie, you want to introduce yourself?
Marie Gavazzi, trustee.
Okay, Evelyn, you want to introduce yourself? You're muted.
Thank you for noticing. Evelyn Katz, Greenstein, trustee.
Paul,
Paul Hickok, director.
Michelle,
Michelle Hayward Cooper, trustee.
and Joy.
I am Joy, business manager.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here,
Um,
Jerry.
oh,
Jerry.
Jerry, there you are. Greetings.
And then Bob.
Bob,
Bob's muted.
I saw Bob somewhere.
And I don't, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I
You want to
apologize.
introduce yourself?
I apologize. Not everybody's appearing in this display on my screen. My apologies for not noticing all the participants. Let's see. I guess we're just talking about the ramp closures to accommodate the work on the north wall at the main branch. And Paul, you'll post that closure notification on the website, I assume?
I'm sorry, was that, was there a question here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand how you'll notify the public about the closure of the ramp at the north wall construction work.
We put it on the website.
Okay, thank you. Okay. As we've discussed before, the New York State Preservation League grant can be used for our local share of the larger projects. The public library construction grant, the reading room plaster, the kitchen floor slab, that was submitted to SED. They had some comments. I think some revisions were made based on their comments. Has SED given any updates on the revised submission for that grant application? Paul, do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we skip over something? We're on the preservation grant?
I hope I didn't skip over anything. I was asking about the grant for the reading room plaster and the
No.
kitchen floor slab.
No updates on that.
Okay. There we go. Did I skip something? Did I miss something we need to loop back to?
I don't think so.
I don't know, I kind of missed whatever that was on. It was on the agenda, but
Marie, you've been keeping a little running tally there in real time, as I recall, for the capital project grant funds and the summary of those funds. Do you have the information you need to keep that up to date?
As far as I know, I'm not, it's difficult for me to look at and look at all your agenda too.
Sure.
I updated it in time for the last board meeting, and I'll do the same this time with the
Okay.
information from the building committee.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think the update, go ahead.
In reference to the Preservation League, do we have a contract to send to them yet so we can get the money?
yeah, that's coming up in the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
If you want to skip over and go to that.
It's up to Kirsten.
Sure. So I think you're talking about the Preservation League grant and the matching funds that will be applied to the historic structures report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, let's talk about that, and I'll shift that down to be adjacent to the HSR. Do we have a contract for that now? Is that something we can
Okay,
move
now-
ahead with?
Okay, we don't have a contract yet that's signed. The contract went to be reviewed by the attorneys. I double checked, I believe they are completed. It was sent back to Messick, Cohen, Wilson, and Baker, who is now reviewing those suggested changes. I expect to get that wrapped up next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Also on the historic structures grant, I did meet with Kurt Wilsey from Quantum Engineering, because I had requested that we move that mechanical engineering study up towards the front of the historic structures report. So I met with Kurt and Larry Wilson to go over our concerns and our idea of exploring the possibility of air conditioning in the future, and also in relation to the fact that there may be funds available through New York State coming up fairly soon. So they're aware of that, and they've moved the mechanical study up to the front.
If they say how soon they would anticipate having feedback for us on that?
When?
Yes.
Soon, I hope.
Well, and the question is, what is the expected deliverable? Is the hope to have a shovel-ready project based on that? Is the intent to
Well,
have?
no, I don't think so. I think that's, we don't, at least I don't have any idea how you fit air conditioning into a 120-year-old building that doesn't have it, doesn't have any duct work.
Right.
I don't know anything about that and how that works. So we need a starting point to say, this is possible, and here's the way you go with that sort of thing. You know, and like I said, we haven't the foggiest idea what to do. at this
Right, right. So,
So, you know, I talked to them about that and the fact that we need, you know, some guidance and you know, how do you approach this problem? And so I expect that to be part of the deliverables. I guess the question comes in, since they're looking at mechanical, the mechanics of the building. You know, the other big problem is still the delivery of heat in the building. The two are sort of related. You know, I mean, I guess we need to understand, you know, where we are with the HVAC system that we don't have.
agreed, agreed. So the reason I asked the question, I just want to make it clear to the committee that this is not going to be a product that we'll have in hand and we'll be able to go to a contractor and say, oh, please give us a price at this point. This is an initial study that will hopefully identify some strategies and approaches, and we'll then need to reach out to an engineer, an architect, or just an engineer perhaps
Yeah.
to help us with that.
Once we have something here, you know, we can take that somewhere to get actual, you know, scope of works and, you know, mechanical drawings and all that sort of thing done. That's going to cost more money. That's
That's
not
right.
part of the historic structures report.
Correct.
But we can't do that yet until we know what the hell we're talking about.
Right. So a little chicken and egg thing going on here. So
Yeah.
we don't want to spend a lot of money now that we end up tearing out in 5 years. So that hopefully this study will help us to figure out what we can do as an approach, and then what parts we do first, what parts we do second, what parts we do third. And then we'll work with someone who can help us then design those specific parts we can get prices for that shovel-ready project.
Are we scrapping the idea of getting something quickly to the legislature?
This is part of that. I think this is the first step of that. But if we want to get something to is there a timeline to get something to the legislature?
Not yet. No, they, right now, apparently, there's a lot of exploration as to what qualifies and how this works and all that sort of thing. When that's going to be done, I don't know.
Is
We
that
don't-
is it the federal money or is that the state money?
There's federal money coming through the state. So the state has to handle how that's, you know, going to work.
So the state isn't going to be expending any money of its own?
What's that?
The state isn't going to be expending any money of its own? They're not going to be doing stimulus funding outside of what the feds are passing to them?
Not that I understand. I understand this is all federal money coming through the state.
But we're getting our ducks in a row, it sounds like. And
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all we can do. Because,
yep,
because we really don't know what qualifies and what doesn't, and neither does the state at this point.
well, I think given the airborne nature of COVID, and I think the HVAC piece has a good chance of being included as part of a critical piece here. So I think we're heading in a prudent direction. It makes sense. And certainly the building has got a very antiquated pre-engineered system. So it's certainly is room for improvement and something that we want to do no matter what. And something that will seems likely that it might be eligible. So I'm comfortable with this direction in hopes of getting this here for the stimulus piece. Now, once we find out what the timeline is, we may need to take another look and can we get this in time for that timeline? But right now we have no timeline, as I understand it.
One thing too, it's still possible that it'll be, the public library construction grants will be a $35 million program rather than a $14 million program, which would be really good. But we don't know that yet either.
Okay. Anything further on this piece about the shovel-ready project and the? No? Okay.
No,
And I think and I'm just looking back here at the agenda. You said Misa Cohen, Wilson Baker, they got the contract, they're reviewing the contract, and hopefully that'll get signed. We said that SHPO and New York State Preservation League have been informed. They want a copy of the contract once that's signed. So when that happens, we'll get that to them. We said we met with Quantum and Larry Wilson about the shovel-ready project. Any other next steps on the historic structures report project? I just recall that they did scanning. I recall that they have gotten copies of our historic documentation. What do they think next steps are? What should we be anticipating, planning for? Have they given us a project timeline or how they see the project laying out in terms of the full project arc?
Oh, do you hear Kirsten?
Beg pardon?
I'm just trying to figure, we had talked about a timeline. I'm not sure what it was. Sometime this summer, I believe.
I know we had sort of, in the RFP, we sort of said we gave some deadlines, but
Yeah.
we'd
They're in
love
there
to.
somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but
I'd love to see that from Wilson Baker, showing how they anticipate meeting the deadlines that were given, what they see as milestone dates, and
well,
if you have
they
a
haven't
chance to
made
ask
it
them.
about that there's a problem with that to me, so I guess they're still okay with the dates.
Okay, well then I'll make sure I have that ready for our next meeting. I'll attach it to the agenda of our next meeting, and we can just sort of touch base, make sure we're still on track with our internal timeline. Okay. Anything else on the historic structures report we want to touch base with at this time? Okay. I can announce that the Knox box has been installed at the main branch downtown. Paul's going to reach out to the fire department and coordinate final keying of that device so that our front door key can be securely placed inside that box. And the only people who would have access to that would be the police and the fire department. So I apologize that's taken me so long, but I think they're ready for next steps. And I hope everyone likes where it is because it's, I'll say, permanently mounted and would be quite a challenge to remove and relocate.
It looks good too.
Okay, thank you. If people get a chance, I'm guessing people might go by and not even recognize that it's there. So hopefully that's the case.
And I did that, Kirsten. I was at the library the other day and I didn't even notice. I apologize.
No, you don't have to apologize at all because it was installed today. So it was not
Oh,
there.
it was
for you to
installed
see.
today?
Yes,
Okay.
today at lunch. So,
Okey doke.
I don't want to mislead anybody. Maria is paying close attention to everything that's out there. Any update on the Gilded Age production?
No, not really. I haven't heard back yet from Michael O'Connor. I guess I gotta rattle his chain on that contract.
At our last meeting, we talked about the Lansingburg branch and its approaching 200th anniversary of the building, or the original portion of the building. There was talk about perhaps the Lansingburg Historical Society may have some ideas. There was talk about maybe some sort of promotional effort from the library. Are there any updates on that anyone wants to make at this time?
I haven't talked with anyone from either the Friends, we talked about involving the Friends, or
Right.
the Lansingburg Historical Society. Paul, did you have anything from the staff?
No, no.
Okay, well, we'll keep it on the list here, and if there are any updates, please chime in. We did talk about the shovel-ready project, so that we've had some updates on that. Paul, are there any updates in terms of other building condition issues you want to bring to our attention, things that we should be aware of?
I can't think of anything offhand. We still, well, yeah, I guess that covers a lot of ground. I'd like to get this kitchen floor thing started because it's more and more of a problem.
Well, no news is good news in this case.
Usually we hear pretty soon, on that grant, but everything's slower with the state. So
I know when I call up over there, sometimes people are working from home, some people are working in the
Yeah.
office, and you leave a message, and eventually you hear back, usually, but it does take a little
these
longer.
projects are just in recent years, they've been going to DASNY for a review, and DASNY is pretty tough on reviewing these projects, making sure that all the ducks are in order, all the ducks are in line. So I think that's taken extra time. Used to be, we used to hear, by March.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions of a building nature to bring forward at this time?
Thoughts and questions about what, Kirsten?
About the building or buildings?
Buildings, yes.
When we raise the issue of the anniversary of Lansingburg, I like history, so I always take, as people visit Lansingburg, I always say, in that building, Chester Arthur was teaching English to Herman Melville. It just amazes me. I think the richness of having a former president and a world-renowned author, it just is very exciting. So if we contacted the Historic Society in Lansingburg, they might be able to get excited about an anniversary of that building. I know they do public events and invite us to tour the building. I've done that twice. But they're a very dedicated group. They might be interested in doing some kind of presentation or celebration. So
The Lansingburg Historical Society is very much interested in the building. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know, but I think it was 2 years ago for the holiday season, they actually made a tree ornament with a picture of the building on it, for sale.
And
And we sold them, at the main library and Lansingburg, and then the Historic Society sold them as well. And I guess the Friends had them in the book sale. So, yeah, they're very knowledgeable about the building, and if we ever have questions, we go there. On the building.
Yeah.
well, certainly if things develop, get some momentum on it, we certainly can see how we can support in those efforts.
When we say the anniversary date, we're talking about just the annual date, or and what length of time is that? When we talk about that event, the Lansingburg celebration of their history, is it 200th anniversary? Is it this year?
Yeah, it's the 200 in 2020. The front part of the building, the Lansingburg Academy, was initially built in 1820. I don't have a specific date. They may have that at the Historic Society. It's the library, where the library was added on as an addition around the turn of the century, 1900. But the original structure that you see in the front was 1820.
Amazing.
So it sounds like it's the full year rather than a specific date of an event that happened. It's an
Right.
anniversary year.
Our opinion is, and I would have to double check, of course, with the Historic Society, is that it's the oldest building in New York State continually used for educational purposes. Because the library is still there. See, it was owned by the Lansingburg School District for many years. They had classes there. They had, some classes in the building. But after that, of course, well, the library was there and is continued on, in the building. So it has been continually used as an educational facility.
Somewhat amazing.
Since
Right.
1920.
Wow. Kirsten, I had one different question, if you don't mind.
Please.
When
go
we're
ahead.
talking about Messick, Cohen, Wilson, and Baker, I think we said we'll stay to the date. I'm not sure when that is, what the next step is, because we put so much effort into negotiating and reviewing. I think it's an activity that will engage the staff and lift spirits. And what actually is the next step? I think you said, Paul, we'll stick with the date, but I didn't know when that is.
And Bob, I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head either.
Yeah.
I will, for our next meeting, I'll come and I'll bring along a copy of the RFP that included our milestone date. But
Right.
that milestone date was very broad. It was very general.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to see a more specific milestone date from Messick, Cohen, Wilson, Baker, showing how they will fill in the spots in between. I think we had 2 or 3 dates in our
Yeah.
RFP. I'm expecting to see many steps to get from point A to B,
Yes.
to fill in the blank there to show us how we get through the entire arc of the project from beginning to end. The intent was that there's a letter of intent and that they've already started the work while this contract negotiation is in progress. My expectation is that they're not waiting until they finish the contract negotiation. Oh, and now we're going to start.
Right.
I would be very disappointed if that were the case. And I think it was pretty clear in the RFP that there was going to be a letter of intent issued as an initial tool for starting the work.
Well,
Yeah, great.
We've also completed all of the scanning, both inside and outside, which they're using to complete more work.
As part of their analysis. and-
Yeah,
and let-
work is definitely ongoing.
Great.
You know, at
Well,
some point, I know that they're going to be meeting with stakeholder groups. I'd like to see who are those stakeholder groups that they're meeting with and when those meetings will be happening in general. I don't need to know the exact date and time unless they're, except for the ones where we are expected to participate. I know summer is starting to come along and people might be starting to plan their vacations. And would certainly hope that we would get adequate notification of when those board meetings might be planned so that people don't have to change their vacation plans. So,
Right.
Maria, I'm sorry, you were, I think, starting to say something.
Well, I was just going to say there's only 5 months to when it's supposed to be completed.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
that, the scanning is kind of the least difficult. But, trying to arrange meetings with stakeholders and such, I think is a more difficult process.
And I think we've heard that some of the engineering portions have been moved forward. That's great. That's part of that entire report process, but I think the timeline for that may have changed. So how does that affect the entire arc of the project in terms of how they see moving through the project? So I'm hoping to hear an update from the architects on what they're proposing to do when.
Great. Thank you.
And, Paul, I have not been reaching out to them. I think having a single point of contact is important, and you don't want to have a lot of back channel conversations. So I'm hoping that you're sharing these questions with the architects and that you'll be able to come back from them with some responses from them.
Okay.
And if they're giving you pushback in terms of giving you an update, I'm happy to help have that conversation with you, with the architects, not that they are not being responsive to your questions and needs. Okay. If there's nothing further, then do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
I move.
Okay, and I guess the next meeting would be on the 23rd of April. Is that everyone's, yes, good. Same time. And so I would second the motion to close the meeting. And any objections? No, excellent. Well, thank you all for participating. I really appreciate your input. And any questions, please ask anytime. And we certainly can bring them to the group for further discussion and development. So thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Hope everybody has a very nice weekend. And I'll be getting notes out the next day or two of this meeting to share out. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Be well.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.